I've got Steve Watson working on an article where they're blocking Infowars.com more and more, calling it racist. One of our listeners was at a transportation kiosk, where you pay $1, you can use the internet, and they went to Infowars.com, and I've seen this myself. We've confirmed this report, and you go to the site, and it just pops up and says racist. It just goes racist, just like something out of us. We're talking about unity and human freedom and empowerment and not letting the elite divide and conquer us, and videos of where I'm bullhorning and protesting the Klan, but they don't care. They just put thousands and thousands of blogs and sites in a database. I know somebody had to pay a bunch of money to a McAfee a few months ago to take them off a list of saying they were a dangerous site, and it wasn't even true. You see these stories every month about Drudge has viruses on his site. It's links to other people's news articles, and it comes out later there are no viruses. It's a lie. They do that to us more and more. But this is the type of crap that's going on, excuse my French, so that you can't discover what's happening. Now, why are they censoring us? Because they don't want us to read mainline studies and show you local news stories as well where people die taking the Gardasil vaccine that 8 years ago killed people in trials. And 7 years ago. And then Rick Perry came out and said it's the law to take it in Texas, and ran a hoax, an authoritarian hoax. There was no law. He told the health department, list it as recommended, which they then lie and say is mandatory. There is no law. They are trying to move to make it mandatory, by the way. India tried that. They've said said don't do it anymore. Japan is moving to ban it. And Heidi Stevenson is a very interesting researcher. And I'll let her get into her bio, Gaia-health.com, but she's been doing the stories and has been quoted in Jonathan Benson's naturalnews.com story. Young women's ovaries destroyed by Gardasil. Merck forgot to research effects of vaccine on female reproduction. So, again, I've been talking about this from naturalnews.com and Infowars.com, posting it since last week. It is so important that you get this out to people, but all the other reports of the deaths, other governments banning it, to understand that this is so evil. And now in Mexico, they're trying to make it mandatory, actually the law, for all girls under 13. It is definitely an anti-fertility deal. Now, you're not going to see Matt Damon out with a movie saying, don't take the Gardasil, my little chiquitas, like they call the little Hispanic girl who's so cute and sweet and innocent in movies like Elysium. No. They're going to say, you take this shot and you get sterilized now, or you have an autoimmune disorder, or you die, or you develop epilepsy or narcolepsy. I know women, personally, that took that vaccine and have narcolepsy and can't drive themselves to work now. I know women that have taken it now that have permanent Guillain-Barré and can't feel their hands and feet. This is all on record. But, they say it's for the women. So I want to go to her to talk about this. Heidi Stevenson, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your awakening, the articles you write, and then this new study that's out dealing with published in the peer-reviewed British Medical Journal of what this stuff's doing to people, because we need to get this out to people, obviously, before more victims take this shot.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it an awful lot. I don't think I'm all that interesting, and so I don't know if we need to spend time going into my history here. But basically, I've been writing about vaccines in general and a lot of other related issues because this whole medical system is crazy. It's insane. And vaccines are like the symbol of what's going on, because we're just not getting the truth. How could a Vioxx happen? It did. So we now have Gardasil. And Gardasil it's an extremely dangerous vaccine. It has well-known, well-documented adverse effects. There's simply no way of getting around it. And this particular case of one girl whose ovaries, basically they killed her ovaries. She's not the only one. There are others, and I've written about that recently. It's not common, but then again, do you want to take the risk? Because that's your future. That's your womanhood. It's just down the tubes, just like that. So anyway, this particular article is called Gardasil Destroys Girls' Ovaries. It should have been predicted. And basically all I do is tell about what the researchers actually found and go on and discuss it in, more human terms. And I talk about some of the things that they found, and also I discuss separately a little more about potentially risky ingredients, including two in particular that are in this vaccine and that are risky, that are known to have potential risks. Polysorbate 80 is known to cause damage to female rats' reproductive systems. It's a fact. It's been studied. There's no way around it. And yet it's in this vaccine. So nobody cared, apparently. The fact is that nobody studied the effects of this vaccine on ovaries. They studied it on male rats' testes, but they didn't bother to study it on ovaries. And they were pushing this on girls without ever even checking it out. It's insane. I don't understand. So, I'm not sure where you want me to go from here on this.
Well, no, it's just that, you're quoted in the article. We've got this new study out, British Medical Journal, but there's so many other studies in the 8 years it's almost 9 years since the studies first started all over the world. And I differ with you on this because I can tell you're a smart, intelligent, advocate for people's health, and you're out there warning people. But folks come out and say, well, they must not have known what they're doing, or they didn't properly study it. They studied it in the trials. It killed people. It sterilized people. It gave people autoimmune disorders. And they said, let's test seeing if we can dump something like this on the market and see if we can PR-wise handle this soft kill weapon. And it's precisely because it does this. They know if they add that polysorbate 40 and other things to it, along with the virus, the body will develop an autoimmune response to that and actually accelerate it and then actually attack any organs that it basically goes into, just like the UN got caught with over 50 different manufacturers over 20 years adding female hormones that are in second trimester estrus to then cause autoimmune disorders and miscarriages at the second trimester 3.5 month mark. And it turned out that was a UN program. So they know full well what they're doing from my educated analysis. I mean, they certainly know it's doing it now and are pushing it harder than ever.
Well, you might be interested in knowing that there is a coming push on the HPV vaccines, Gardasil and Cervarix, to not just give them to teenage girls or boys, but to move the age range down and to give it to babies. And they're using as the example of why they should do this, the Hep B vaccine, which is in the U.S., nearly every baby born in a hospital is given this vaccine within the first 24 hours of birth. And that's hailed as this great success, even though the Hep B vaccine doesn't protect an infant from anything that infant could possibly have.
Yeah, unless the infant is an intravenous drug user or having unprotected sex, which is incredible. And again, if they can give over 100 million Americans SV40 cancer viruses knowingly and get away with it in the polio vaccine on record, if they can give kids for now 20 years deadly, or 15 years or so, deadly at birth, on record, dangerous hepatitis shots, and then hepatitis levels only go up because duh. And if they can give them live polio and cover that up, and if they can do this, of course they are. And clearly, this is a criminal eugenics operation. It just came out, and I said estrus, I meant gestation. A second trimester, going into the second trimester of gestation, that's when these other hormones they've added, according to the medical doctors I've had on, kick in and cause the woman to have a miscarriage. I mean, this is so diabolical. I think people have trouble dealing with it, Heidi. So yeah, let's get into babies now. It's not enough to hurt these women with these shots and little boys now. Let's go after babies with the papilloma vaccine that, as you know, doesn't even cover most of the papilloma viruses.
That's correct. That's exactly correct. And yet this is actually in a journal. The plan to do this, or the study that supposedly documents why we should do this, why we should start giving this vaccine to babies. And the interesting thing is, even though this vaccine is known to have an extremely high rate of adverse effects, including death, and adverse effects that destroy lives utterly, like narcolepsy and others, and they did not even once in the entire paper even reference safety concerns. Not one mention of adverse effects. Nothing. It's as if there's no potential harm. That is actually the way they've approached this. It's not an issue. So it seems to me that if you want to hide the effects of a vaccine, give it to a baby, a brand new baby, because they can't tell you what's going on. You give it to a baby at birth, and how do you know that baby was healthy to begin with? You don't. You can't prove it. All you know is you've been handed this very, very sick baby. And what does it? Well, who knows? Maybe it was the vaccine, but no, vaccines don't do things like that. At least that's the attitude. And people end up sick. So we now have a world full of sick children. And that's literally the truth. The average child now is ill. And
well, that's why I wanted to get you on, is because you point that out in the articles you put out on your excellent news site. And that's what's frustrating, is they want to make us ill, to make us part of the medical system. It's another form of slavery. And they've even written white papers on it. And people just can't come to grips with how diabolical this is.
It is. It's stunning. It's hard to comprehend. I mean, I actually came into this from an iatrogenic injury. That means doctor-induced. And I'm supposed to be dead. But I finally woke up a bit, and I decided, well, they told me I'm going to die, that there's no way to treat this. So I went to an alternative practitioner.
Heidi Stevenson, stay there. I want to talk about this on the other side. Folks, there's no doubt this is a eugenics reclamation program. Just like they now admit in California, they're still sterilizing women. It's a huge secret program. I had tried everything. I'd cut back the amount of food I was eating. I was lifting weights and jogging, but nothing was working. My body was literally starving for minerals and trace elements, as well as key vitamins. And as soon as I had that, I immediately could eat half of what I was eating previously and be satisfied. Now, there are hundreds of great products at InfoWarsTeam.com, but I want to point out the 3 that have helped me lose 37 pounds in just 2 months. Products like Beyond Tangy Tangerine, Pollen Burst, and Rebound. When I started taking the Tangy Tangerine and other products every day, I lost more than 37 pounds in just 2 months. Now that's results. I want to challenge my listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com and to order just 3 of their products, and you will see the changes in the way you look, feel, and in your appetite almost immediately. Start your journey to health and wellness today. InfoWarsTeam.com. You know, I wish that the Mexican supremacist Robert Rodriguez here in Austin, Texas, where I live, because I know a lot of people that know him behind the scenes. I mean, he's basically like a Hispanic version of the Ku Klux Klan. I wish he would come out and make a movie about how the UN has got a program in Mexico to make all the little girls in Mexico take Gardasil shots that on record are going to screw them up and reduce their fertility and sterilize them. Oh, but he's not going to do that. He's just going to make movies about how white people are all racist and have to be dealt with. And so is Matt Damon. Because that's what the establishment wants. They want us all fighting with each other while the globalists are basically killing us. It's unbelievable, the reality of this. Heidi Stevenson, you were damaged by your doctor. That's the #1 cause of death now in this country. Unnatural death was over 300,000 a year. Doctors killing people one way or another, and the system just is pushing this. Expand and tell folks your story of what happened to you. And you know, babies as my crew was pointing out, as Nico was pointing out, you don't know if they were okay when they were born, so you can mess them up and claim it was a problem throughout life. They can't tell you when they're sick. They can't tell you when it's hurting. They're the perfect victim to pump full of Gardasil and hepatitis and all these other shots.
Absolutely. I'd like to take one step back. You said that the medical system is the #1 cause of death. Agreed completely. And you said that it's about 300,000. Well, I agree with that, except that that's only the tip of the iceberg. That's only what's recognized and acknowledged. But what isn't recognized, what's not accepted as medically induced death, are the people who end up with cancer because of antibiotics, which do lead to cancer in many cases because they mess up the gut bacteria. And all kinds of adverse effects that end up causing horrific damage, like all these kids with diabetes who are going to die ultimately of diabetes, because that is a deadly disease, but they won't be counted as iatrogenic deaths. So that the number of people who die that way is massively understated by 300,000.
That's right. That's right. There are so many studies that the vaccines are causing some type of autoimmune response in the pancreas and burning it out. I mean, they're just killing everybody.
Well, I can't argue with that at all. I wouldn't even begin to try to argue with it. Yeah, it's the autoimmune disorders, and that's mostly what we're seeing in these girls who don't die immediately. We're seeing autoimmune disorders and vaccines. That's my big thing about vaccines, because they cause autoimmune disorders, and autoimmune disorders are a horror.
Lupus, all of it is off the chart. And here's the deal, Heidi.
Absolutely.
You've got all the studies up on your site. We've got them. This is not debatable. They knew Gardasil was killing a bunch of people in the trials. Other governments are banning it, but not America, not Mexico, because we're under the control of Goldman Sachs and other groups that have the actuaries set up. They want us out of the way, and in the process of our dying, they want to suck all the money out of us.
I'm not going to argue with you about it.
It's unbelievable.
That's what I argue with you about that. No, I mean, I'm not going to go into the political end of it right now, because that's not what what I know as much about. I just know what's happening here, and there's just no way of looking at it with open eyes and not realize that something's going on. Absolutely, something is going on.
Yeah, well, they're going to put shots in me or my family over my dead body. But the problem is they're coming out with it in the food, in the water, vaccines, in pharmacological crops, where you can't escape it. Back in 60 seconds, I want to come back to you and, Heidi, have you tell your story. We didn't get to that yet. And the website is Gaia-health.com. I just wanted to get you on because you're out there, collating all these studies, helping warn people. God bless you.
The important thing about the Pro 1 filter today is that the material we use for removing fluoride and other heavy metals now will remove the latest form of fluoride called hydrofluorosilicic acid. There's no other fluoride reduction filter out there that will remove that type of fluoride. And it's extremely important because today we're hearing more and more cities are using that form of fluoride.
We've been having medication forced on us through the water system for quite a while. Most people don't realize it. Most people don't realize the negative effects of fluoride.
There's a wide range of health effects that are attributed to fluoride.
Bottom line, why should somebody get this new Pro 1 ProPure filter?
The reason to buy the Pro 1, it's an all-in-one filter. It's convenient, easy to use. It doesn't require the add-on fluoride filter, and in addition, this filter removes the latest form of fluoride called hydrofluorosilicic acid.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back live. We're going to cover a bunch of breaking news, start of the next segment, and then open the phones up to take your phone calls. I'm going to give the number out at the start of the next segment. We're talking to Heidi Stevenson. She's a journalist and researcher, and I saw her quoted an article on Natural News by Jonathan Benson that has the British Medical Journal info, young woman's ovaries destroyed by Gardasil. But I wanted her to finish up her story of doctor-induced or system-induced illness and other points she thinks are important to add for people out there. And, of course, her website for folks that want to visit is Gaia-health.com. So go ahead, Heidi Stevenson, make any other points that you think are important.
Okay, well, basically, I had an iatrogenic disease. It was killing me. I was really literally close to death, and I ended up going to a homeopath, and I actually didn't even believe in homeopathy. I thought it was pure nonsense, and that's actually even the first thing I said to the homeopath, who said, well, I don't care. And that was over 10 years ago, and I'm here, and I've taken what I've learned and gotten into it and found that what happened to me is not rare. It's common. It's actually very, very common. And it's easy to do because the medical system, the doctors, they all circle the wagons, and they won't, none of them speak out. If one does, well, you know, they ruin their careers. And apparently careers are more important than people's lives. At least that seems to be the impression that we get when we're on the opposite side of that system. And in the process of my learning, I found out more and more and more and discovered that vaccines, these wonderful miracle things that I always believed in because, well, doesn't everybody, discovered the truth. And that everything we've been told about them has been a lie. That they're not harmless, that they're extremely dangerous, that they kill people, that they destroy lives, and they don't even do what they claim they're going to do. They don't last.
That's what's
forever,
amazing. Almost all of the inserts say doesn't even protect you from hepatitis, doesn't protect you from papilloma, doesn't, and you're like, but they're saying it does on the news. It's so incredible.
Absolutely true. I mean, there is some truth to it. There's some limited truth, but it's limited. And
that's right. There's some limit. There's evidence that the 500-year-old technology of immunization does have some validity. The problem is these companies are so corrupt and have such a hidden agenda and such a horrible history that you can't trust them.
Amen. Amen to that. I have to agree 100%. And the fact is, you have to consider and be honest about the harm. And you have to be honest about what they have accomplished and what they haven't. And the fact of the matter is that the claims that vaccines have made us safe from smallpox, safe from polio, and all of these other so-called horrible childhood illnesses, most of which I remember. I had them. And frankly, they're not fun, but guess what? Autism is a whole lot worse. And give me a choice, I think I'll take chicken pox. You know, I might get a scar out of it, but I think I could live with it.
Hey, my children have all had it. I mean, you know, by the grace of God, because of good nutrition, everything, they just got some little red bumps on them, and it was gone in 2 days. In fact, you know, you hear about the groups where the neighbor kid has it, so you bring the kids over to get it from them so that it's all over with and you control the situation.
Oh, absolutely. My mother was very, very upset because she tried to have me get the mumps, and unfortunately, I just plain didn't get it.
Absolutely.
So
you don't want to get it when
those parties really happened. People really did do it because it was the safest thing. Everybody knew that.
Well, Mom always knew best until the government became our mommy. Heidi Stevenson, thank you so much. We'll talk to you again soon. Great job.
Thank you.
We'll be back with a ton of news. Stay with us.
Now you can watch the InfoWars Nightly News streaming live as it happens for free.
Check it out at infowars.com/show.